This one's kind of fun. It was when the guy was steering that the truck was he says it felt like the wheel wasn't round. It felt like it was oval or something. I've seen a lot of these where it's a wheel joint. And sure enough, you get in on this wheel joint. Let's see if I can get a little detail. It'll take me just a minute. But you can see up in there, it's just not right. It's so weird looking in a viewfinder and pointing. But it's just not right up in there. And sure enough, you know, I get the wheel joint and I wiggle it. And it's got a little bit of play in it. Not a whole lot of play. But you can kind of hear it knock. And all that sort of stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's the wheel joint. I'm like, I better double check the wheel bearing. Just to make sure it's not the wheel bearing. So as I grab it and go to shake, this is about as bad a wheel bearing as I've ever seen. But, you know, usually, I mean, it's off the ground, but that's bad. Well, I think that's the main concern. We'll probably do both of them at the same time because you gotta get through one to get the other, and the nuts on these things are always just rusted as can be. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. So usually you get a lot of howling, a lot of other stuff on the freeway. You didn't mention any of that. It says it's fine on the freeway. And you get into a parking lot and make a tight turn, then it was a real problem. So anyway, wheel bearing, something maybe you don't want to. First thing you want to do is you want to pull your brake rotor off, brake caliper off. For this one, you use a 10mm hex, or 3/8 hex, pardon me. It's just like an Allen wrench. I like to use a socket type. I've already staged this one to spare your ears the air ratchet noise. But what you do is you pull them out there on the back side. There's two of them. The next thing you want to do is take a pry bar, put it underneath the brake pad or something. Pry it out a little bit to give you some play. And then you'll want to set it aside. I like to set mine on the control arm. That's a nice slick way to do them. Just like that. You can see it just sets on there. So next thing you want to do is you want to undo the cotter pin that's through the nut here. Is bend it down so that it's straight. Of course, it's rusted piece of crap. It's going to break off on you. You'll want to replace this because they're, you know, sometimes you can reuse them, but on these ones it seems like you never can. I'm going to take the bottom part of my dikes, or side cuts, I guess would be more friendly, I don't know. Put that underneath the pin, give it a little tap, tap, taparoo in the up direction, and then you can grab onto the pin from above, and you just kind of grab as low as you can, pry it up, work a little groove into it until it's kind of got a good bite. And once you've got a good bite on it, I've pulled it out a little bit. Grab onto it, and then at the joint of the pliers or side cuts, just tap them up, and it pulls it out just like that. That was a stubborn one. Most of them are a little easier, but you can do the same thing with tie rods or whatever. Not that you need to pull the tie rod on this one because you don't. Next thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the camera back, pull the brake rotor off. Now I'm going to show you something on these. They're held on by 3 bolts. There's one here, and then one on the other side. Now to get those off, you're going to need, they look funny. I mean, like the bolts themselves, they're all stepped like that. That's because they're a 12-point socket. They're a 14mm. The equivalent of 14mm, 9/16, and you put that on there. But what you'll want to do is you want to use some PB Blaster. I know I always talk about products or whatever, but these are ones that I really believe in and like. I don't know who makes this. Maybe they're their own company, but when you look at the rust on this, you can see kind of spots forming on the nut itself. It looks like a kind of a camo pattern, kind of spotted. That's when you know that you're really rusted. I'll spray it with some PB Blaster and get that soaking right away. Chances are good I'm going to have to use a torch on this on almost every single one. I mean, I quote them an extra $50 just because these are always roded, rusted, corroded. Roded, that's a new word. You better write that down. You'll need that later. Anyway, you hit these on the inside too. Most of the time the ones into the bearing itself is made out of good metal, good steel. and it doesn't rust too bad, so these will crack and then spin out in most cases. What I like to use for those, I use that 3/8 drive 12 point, and then I use a Craftsman ratchet that's just longer than crap. I don't know, how long are your craps? Mine are about that long. I'm serious, I plug toilets, I'm not even messing around here. So you get those sprayed, let them soak for a little bit, and we'll go back in a couple of minutes and break them free. So anyway, I switched to the 1/2" breaker bar. It's probably what I should have used to begin with. I had to adapt down. Use a Powercraft, that's a Checker or O'Reilly product. Just a little converter that converts it down from 1/2" drive breaker bar to 3/8 drive socket. Now with this one, the thing you got to remember is a mechanic, you may be doing this a while. If you get into it, it really pays off after you have some experience. Or even if you're not, you know, you want to have your back last. That's the point I want to make. So for these, it takes a lot of pressure to break these free. So what I do is I turn the wheel out, and that allows it to be able to fit in there for one, but also enables it to be out here where you can work with it. You want to lift with your back straight. So what I'll do, I'll get right up and cozy against the fender, and then I'll use my legs, get a nice arch back to your back, or straight, lift with your legs, and just push into it like that. Once you break it free, then it's not too bad to use a ratchet to turn it out the rest of the way. But same thing with this one under here. Get underneath of that sucker, and just even use your weight. Maybe you had a big lunch or you got some weight going on here. Just kind of lean back and push up with your legs, and that'll break it free. Your impact wrench won't get it, I'll tell you that right now. So that's just a little tip. So just to show people a little detail, with the wheel turned out on this, you're able to fit this whole mess in there, you know, like you saw before. I guess I did film that. So anyway, that's a good way to save your back. Then what you do is, once you get all three of them loose, you'll put this in there, get yourself a good healthy size hammer. This is not a good healthy size hammer. You want a good hand sledge. Just trying to remember, mine's over there by the vise, that's where it is. So you'll get a good hammer and hit the socket. If you hit these special bolts, you want these because they have more surface area and they don't strip. That's why they do that, because it takes a lot of force on them. But you look at the back of the socket, it's all beat up. I'm not, you know what, I should just quit cussing. It's not a very intelligent thing to do. So anyway, it's all beat up, that's what I'll say. And that's okay, because it still fits onto the ratchet and we're good to go. But what you'll do is you'll put that on to protect it a little bit, and then you'll hit that. You want to back these out a good 5 or 6 threads, and then you hit it one side, work the other side. It's a triangle, go all the way around, and that'll loosen this up to where this hub assembly will come out. Now what's going to happen is, when you go to pull it out, you want this straight, and the whole thing will pull out. This axle will just slip right out of there, and then take it out on the driveway outdoors and make a bunch of smoke, you know, hitting this with the torch so that it'll come off. So anyway, that's how you do it.